Jack Rainbow remembered when Blueville turned into a city of color. The town that used to be all blue now sparkled with reds, greens, yellows, and purples, a beautiful rainbow of life. He had broken the spell that kept the town stuck in boring blue by defeating 4 scary monsters. Everyone in Blueville cheered, finally able to see the world in all its bright glory. But nothing stays the same forever. Jack had been home for months, walking streets that didn't feel quite like home anymore. His adventures in Hope City had taught him to follow his dreams and explore new places. Yet here he was, in a town that had changed because of him, and instead of feeling proud, something felt off. It started with little cracks. He noticed the green trees looking faded, the red brick buildings losing their bright warmth, and the golden road to the town square becoming dim, like shadows were creeping in. The colorful world he had worked so hard to create was slowly fading back to its old, deep blue. It started at the old diner, watching the first clear sign that Blueville was changing again. A single bright orange petal fell from a flower box and, as it touched the cobblestone, turned blue. "No, not again," said Jack. Then, a slow, deliberate knock came at Jack's door. He looked toward the old grand door of his childhood home, which was slightly open. A long shadow stretched across the threshold, and a figure stepped forward, someone who looked like him, but not quite right. Jack knew before he even saw his eyes. It was him, the other Jack. This other Jack wasn't just a memory from the past. He was something new, created from the town's strange, changing magic. The other Jack who had never left Blueville. Jack Rainbow held a dagger he had found in Hope City, the dagger of 2 truths. "You thought it was over," the other Jack said, his voice breaking the silence. "You thought you saved them." Jack Rainbow swallowed hard. "I did." The other Jack smirked. "Then why is everything turning blue again?" Jack didn't have an answer. He had freed Blueville, hadn't he? He had broken the spell. But as he watched, the town started to fade again. The shops flashed between bright colors and deep blue. Even the river, which had been sparkling just yesterday, now glowed with its old, ghostly blue light. Blueville was cracking. It was going back to how it used to be. The other Jack stepped closer, his eyes fixed on the dagger in Jack's hand. "This time you can't run away." Jack took a deep breath and clenched his fists. "So what do you want me to do?" The other Jack's smirk grew wider. "Face yourself." Jack had left Blueville thinking he had defeated fate. But as he stood in a town that was coming apart, he realized that destiny wasn't finished with him yet. He held the dagger tightly, wishing he could make all the bad magic disappear. Suddenly the blade sliced his skin and he felt a sharp sting. He gasped, but then something amazing happened. His skin started to splash shimmering colors as if painted with a rainbow. The cut didn't bleed. Instead, his entire arm turned into a swirl of brilliant colors, a living rainbow. Not far away, his best friend Lena Voss watched in shock and wonder. Lena, with her long white hair like moonlight and bright, curious eyes, had been his friend since they were little. They had many adventures together, and now she couldn't find the right words. "Jack, your arm!" Lena gasped as she moved closer, worry replacing her usual smile. "What's happening to you?" Jack looked at his colorful hand, amazed. The colors danced and swirled, stretching beyond his arm and into the rest of his body. The rainbow colors pulsed in waves that pushed back the blue creeping in on the walls of his old home. Lena's eyes grew wide. "Jack, it's like you're changing reality." Jack barely heard her. He felt the colors not just on his skin, but deep inside him, in his bones, in his breath, in his very thoughts. Then he felt another feeling, a kind of pushback. The other Jack looked worried. He stepped back. "No," he whispered, his voice shaking a little. "That power, it shouldn't be yours." Jack stared at him, and it hit him. "You're scared." Jack knew he needed help. He closed his eyes and reached out in his mind to his friend, Conscience the Rock. That magical stone always gave him helpful advice. As Jack's eyes shut and his thoughts reached into the quiet, a vision unfolded. Not of stone, but of forest. He found himself standing beneath ancient trees, their silver leaves whispering with a wind that seemed older than time itself. And from the heart of the wood stepped a creature so regal it made the air itself still, a white, majestic lion, enormous and glowing faintly under moonlight. His mane flowed like clouds in a storm, his eyes deep pools of memory and knowing. He looked at Jack, not with judgment, but with the weight of 1,000 truths. When he spoke, it was like thunder softened by grace. "Jack Rainbow," the lion said, voice echoing through the very bones of the earth. "You carry color in a world that forgets. But not all things wish to be remembered. The forgotten ones stir, trapped between was and will be. To awaken what has been lost, you must walk a path few dare." Then from his paw he offered a green gem, glowing softly, pulsing like a heartbeat. Jack took it, his fingers tingling the moment they touched its surface. "Take this to the salt cathedral of Zipaquira," the lion continued. "There, the light shall fuse with the stone. Follow it, and do not stray. The gem knows its place. But remember, remembrance is a gift, and a cost." Before Jack could speak, the vision faded, and he opened his eyes, clutching the green gem now in his hands. Lena stared at him, wide-eyed. "You look like you've seen a ghost." "Not a ghost," Jack said quietly. "A guardian." They set out the next morning, the green gem safely wrapped in cloth, pulsing faintly like it knew the way. The journey to Zipaquira was long and quiet, filled with more questions than answers. But under it all, there was something stronger. Faith. The kind of faith that pushed past fear. Boldness that comes when you're too deep in mystery to turn around. When they arrived at the cathedral, it towered above them, carved into the mountainside like a sacred secret. Inside, the air smelled of salt and stillness. The walls shimmered faintly under dim light. Then it happened. A single beam of green light descended from above, striking the gem in Jack's hand. It glowed brighter, vibrating gently. They followed the light down long, silent corridors, deeper into the heart of the mountain. First, it led them to a prayer chamber carved in salt. Without speaking, Lena and Jack knelt. Their hands folded, heads bowed, they asked for guidance, for strength, and for the courage to keep walking when things made no sense. Then the light moved again, this time to a ledge, a cliff within the salt. And the light spoke, not in words, but in knowing. "Jump!" Lena took Jack's hand. Jack took a breath, and they jumped into the abysm. They plunged into darkness, only to land in a flowing river within the cathedral itself. Cold and alive, it carried them through salt tunnels that shimmered like starlight. At last, it delivered them to a vast chamber. At its center, an altar, ancient and waiting. And in its base, a hole, shaped perfectly for the gem. Jack placed it in. The room exploded with emerald light. The stone vibrated, singing a song of old. A portal opened, swirling with color and memory. The path to the forgotten fountain had begun. "This is the path to the forgotten fountain," Jack said, turning to Lena. "Come." Together, Lena and Jack entered a hidden passage beneath Blueville's oldest tree. They dodged an old trap and faced shadowy creatures made of moving ink. They walked for what felt like hours in the cool, echoing tunnel, and the deeper they went, the more Jack felt like someone, or something, was watching them. Then suddenly, the passage ended at a huge stone door covered with strange carvings, twisting symbols, spiraling runes, and a chicken? Lena squinted. Why is there a chicken on an ancient door? Jack ran his hand over the odd design. Maybe it's a forgotten language or a secret sign, a lost legend of the Bok. They both jumped as a fluffy white chicken strutted out from behind a pile of rocks. It tilted its head at them with wise little eyes. Jack frowned. That can't be the guardian of the forgotten fountain. The chicken fluffed its feathers, gave them a long, judging look, and pecked at the ground like it owned the place. Lena covered her mouth, trying not to laugh. Jack, we've faced shadow monsters and dodged traps, and now we're being judged by a chicken? Jack scoffed. No way. I'm not letting a chicken decide our fate. Suddenly, the chicken flapped its wings, sending a small cloud of dust into the air. Then, a deep, booming voice filled the chamber. Who dares seek the forgotten fountain? Lena and Jack froze. Jack slowly turned to her. Did that chicken just talk? The chicken cleared its throat. Of course I did. Haven't you ever met a guardian of the Great Passageway before? Lena burst into giggles. No, we haven't. Jack crossed his arms. You expect me to believe that the powerful keeper of this ancient place is a chicken? The chicken puffed up its feathers and replied, Do I look like an ordinary bird to you? I am Cluckles the Unyielding. Listen to my words, or face, the peck of eternal itching. They stared at each other for a long moment. Finally, Lena broke the silence. So, how do we pass, O mighty Cluckles? Cluckles hopped onto a nearby rock throne, one that definitely hadn't been there before, and pointed a wing at Jack. A great trial awaits. You must answer. The riddle of the fowl. Jack groaned. This is silly. But Cluckles didn't listen. Tell me, what comes first, the chicken or the egg? Lena and Jack exchanged puzzled looks. Jack whispered, Is this a trick? Is there a special answer? Lena just shrugged. I don't know, but he seems very serious. Jack sighed and said, Fine, the egg. Because long ago, reptiles laid eggs before chickens existed, so... Cluckles gasped dramatically. Blasphemy. He flapped his wings wildly, stirring up little dust devils. Jack covered his face. Okay, the chicken. Cluckles stamped his little chicken foot. No, wrong again. Lena threw her hands up. Then what's the answer? After a pause, Cluckles smirked. Neither. The answer is... lunch. Jack blinked. What? Cluckles nodded wisely. Because Cluckles the Unyielding was eating when time began. The very first thing wasn't a chicken or an egg, but a tasty meal. They stood there in silence until Lena burst out laughing. "Oh my! Jack, we got tricked by a chicken," Jack groaned. "I really don't like this place." Cluckles beamed. "You have answered well, brave travelers. You may now pass." The stone door creaked open, revealing the forgotten fountain. Jack turned to Lena. "If you ever tell anyone about this, I will say nothing happened." Lena grinned. "Sure, Jack, totally." Jack stepped forward and Cluckles clucked. "Oh, and Jack?" Jack paused. "What?" The chicken winked. "You still owe me lunch." After a long, tiring journey, they finally reached the fountain. Jack raised the dagger and dipped it into the sparkling water. The blade hissed, then split into two magical creatures, a glowing phoenix with blue flames and a slithering wolf made of shifting shadows. The phoenix cried out, its wings spreading wide as blue flames danced in the air. "Jack Raineybow, the future calls you, but the past still holds on." The shadowy wolf circled Lena and Jack, speaking in a soft, smooth voice. "Balance the truths, or darkness will take over." Lena and Jack stepped forward and passed through a swirling vortex, the world of the other Jack, where he would face his greatest challenge, a version of himself who had never left Blueville, filled with regret and his darkness. He had to face fears, accept his mistakes, and find the truth inside himself. Jack's fears appeared before him, visions of failing, of being forgotten, of leaving Blueville only to come back as a stranger. His biggest regret was leaving his father behind, a man who always believed in him. He had been too scared to face his disappointment, and now that regret took shape like a shadow, whispering doubts in his ear. But then Jack understood. His father never wanted him to be held back by fear. He wanted him to choose his own way and create his own destiny. Jack let go of his guilt and fear. With newfound strength, Jack reached into the swirling rainbow inside him and grabbed hold of the truth, the power to create and change his reality. The shadow shattered, and the two Jacks merged into one, whole and complete. Lena and Jack emerged victorious, using the power of color and hope to heal Blueville once and for all, while the old, fearful Jack was sent away into the unknown. As the last bits of the old blue faded, Jack and Lena stood overlooking Blueville, watching the sunrise paint the sky in colors he had never seen before. "It's finally over," he whispered. Lena smiled and said, "No, Jack, it's just beginning." The end.